The galaxy called us monsters until they saw what we truly were. For cycles beyond counting, I have endured these tedious, pompous ceremonies. The Grand Republic Council, in its infinite wisdom, gathers to welcome yet another civilized species into our illustrious fold. It is always the same predictable spectacle. Frail, soft-skinned intellectuals from worlds so peaceful and secure that evolution was merely a formality. They speak of art, of philosophy, of their inevitable, graceful ascent to the stars. They have no concept of true struggle, of the razor's edge upon which life truly balances. They have no inkling of what a genuine predator looks like, of the fire that forges beings in hardship's crucible. My people, the Kthar, we stand as the glaring exception in this galactic menagerie of pacifists. We evolved on a world they officially classify as a Class 12 deathworld, a planet where the very atmosphere can flay unprotected flesh, where the local predators strategize with chilling cunning, and where daily survival constitutes a hard-won victory. We are strength incarnate, resilience personified, fury given physical form. When our generation's ships first breached the void and reached the stars, we were met not with welcome, but with sheer, unadulterated terror. They saw our chitinous plates, our razor-sharp talons, the simmering volcanic heat in our blood, and they swiftly relegated us to a comfortable stereotype. Mindless brutes, they would whisper behind their hands, their delicate features arranged in masks of distaste. They never saw the poets who composed epic sonnets about the howling storms of our home, the scientists who unraveled the mysteries of quantum physics in shielded laboratories, the master strategists who could outmaneuver any fleet in simulated war games. They looked upon us and saw only the weapon, never the mind that wielded it. On a true death world, intelligence is not a leisurely pursuit or a gift. It is the most essential weapon in your arsenal, honed to a deadly edge by constant peril. And so, here I sit once more, Crix, fourth scion on a Kthar Imperium, trapped in this plush prison of diplomacy. My father, the Emperor, in his infinite wisdom, demands a full and detailed report of these proceedings, a personal punishment for what he delicately terms my recent political indiscretions. I slouch in my seat, a gesture of disrespect lost on this assembly, my mind already numbed by the anticipated boredom. On the central stage, the Thrall delegate, Zara, takes her position. Her species is one of the scant few in this republic that even approaches a rudimentary understanding of conflict, having evolved alongside a rival species on their own world. It is the only reason I tolerate her presence in the adjacent seat. Honored delegates of the Grand Council, she chirps, her voice a sound like shattering crystal to my audio receptors. Today marks a truly significant occasion. We welcome a new species, hailing from a remote frontier sector near the galaxy's unexplored spiral arm. They are unique, to say the least. It is my distinct privilege to introduce Delegate Elena Vance, representing the species known as humanity. I feel a muscle in my jaw twitch. I straighten just a fraction, the scales along my spine shifting with a soft rustle. The human that steps forward to the podium is different, not frail in the typical manner. Her frame, while lacking the obvious natural armor of my kind, carries a clear density of muscle, a functional strength that speaks of necessity, not vanity. This observation is confirmed a moment later as the planetary data sheet flashes across the massive holo display. Their gravity is nearly identical to Kthara. Her world, which they call Terra or simply Earth, is not a placid garden. The readouts paint a picture of a violent, temperamental cauldron. 71% of its surface is covered in water, and the data indicates most of it is laden with minerals and compounds toxic to their biology. Their atmosphere is a turbulent, unstable soup of nitrogen and oxygen, shockingly prone to cataclysmic storms of a scale we would consider planet-wide emergencies. A low, uneasy murmur begins to ripple through the chamber. I see numerous gazes flick rapidly from the terrifying planetary statistics on the display to my own impassive face. Then back again. The connection is being made. This is no safe, curated world. This is a crucible, a forge, a place that demands strength or delivers death. Delegate Vance begins her historical overview, and the holo display shifts to accommodate her narrative. It does not start with cities or philosophical treatises. It starts with their early days, depicting them not as settled farmers, but as persistent hunters. The visuals show small groups of primitive humans pursuing massive, heavily armored herbivores. They did not rely on overwhelming force or potent natural weapons. They used something far more unsettling: pure, unadulterated endurance. They would select a target, and then they would simply follow it. For days, across burning sands, through treacherous ravines, under a pitiless sun, they would follow until the magnificent beast, exhausted, dehydrated, and mentally broken, could simply run no more and succumb to their relatively simple spears. A hunting method built not on a moment of explosive power, but on a foundation of relentless, terrifying, inexorable patience. My own primary heart gives a sudden, hard thump against my ribs. This is a new kind of danger. An enemy you cannot simply outfight, but one that will outlast you, that will wait you out, that will pursue you to the very ends of the earth. Then she transitions, and her voice grows colder, more clinical, as she speaks of their true, defining nature. From the earliest records of our civilization to the dawn of our space age, she states, her voice cutting to the quiet room, the single greatest threat to humanity has consistently, invariably, been humanity itself. The display behind her erupts with a staggering torrent of data. Charts graphing billions of lives lost in conflicts over arable land, fresh water, and energy resources. Maps of their world shifting colors through millennia of wars fought over abstract ideologies, religious dogmas, and sheer, bloody-minded pride. They fought continent-spanning wars over access to something as simple as fresh water. They leveled cities and exterminated populations over strips of land they designated as holy. And most chillingly, they developed weapons of such apocalyptic power that they could crack their own planet's crust, not as a theoretical exercise, but as a deployed deterrent, thousands of warheads poised to end everything. Our greatest enemy, the one we could never truly defeat, stares back at us from every reflection, from every face we see in a crowd. The chamber is plunged into a silence, so profound I can hear the hum of the life support systems. The horror on the faces of the other delegates is a palpable, physical force in the room. They had comforted themselves with the belief that our Cthar violence was a grotesque anomaly, a tragic fluke of evolution on a hellish world. Now they are confronted with the undeniable truth. That same capacity for violence, refined, intellectualized, systematized, and perfected, exists in a species that looks disconcertingly similar to many of them. I cannot contain it. A low, rumbling laugh, a sound like grinding tectonic plates, escapes my throat, echoing jarringly in the stunned silence. I rise to my full height, a formal and significant sign of utmost respect among my people. In this moment, I have their complete, undivided, and utterly horrified attention. The remainder of her presentation passes in a blur of contrasting imagery. She shows their culture, breathtaking art born from the depths of conflict and suffering, music that echoes the primal rhythms of war and the haunting melodies of heartbreak, complex games that are nothing less than intricate, multi-layered battle simulations. They are a living paradox, a species capable of creating sublime beauty and devising methods of destruction on a scale that beggars belief, all woven together into the same historical tapestry. When it finally concludes, I do not wait for the formal adjournment. I move with purpose, my heavy footfalls ringing on the polished floor, as I make my way directly to the human delegate in the spacious reception hall. She stands somewhat isolated, other delegates giving her a wide, cautious berth. I approach, my immense bulk casting a shadow over her. I extend a hand, a gesture my people reserve for gauging the strength and mettle of a potential opponent or ally. Delegate Vance. I am Crix, fourth scion of the Cthar Imperium. I wish to discuss the preliminary terms for a cultural and strategic exchange between our peoples. Do you accept my query? She hesitates for only a heartbeat, her eyes, a striking shade of green, narrowing slightly as she assesses me. Then her hand meets mine. Her grip is firm, unyielding, lacking the delicate fear I am accustomed to. There is no fear in her eyes, only a cool, calculating assessment. To be perfectly frank, she says, her voice dry, I'm just a retired soldier they sent because I was politically expendable. I release her hand and let out a deeper, more approving rumble. A warrior? Good. I, 2. Serve my mandatory tenure in our imperial fleets. I find the endless political squabbles of the court profoundly tedious. To my astonishment, a genuine, wry smile touches her lips, and she almost laughs. You have no idea, she replies, a note of shared commiseration in her tone. And just like that, the rigid formalities of the council chamber dissolve. We retreat to a more private lounge, a space designed for quieter conversation. We talk. For hours we talk. We share stories of our respective death worlds, of Cthar who navigate plains of molten sulfur, of humans who build civilizations on the slopes of active volcanoes. I speak of the Great Moat, a trial of passage that claims a quarter of our youth. She speaks of diseases they willingly injected themselves with to build immunity. The parallels are staggering. I introduce her to Cthar Fire Ale, a potent brew that could realistically fuel a starship's auxiliary reactor. In return, she introduces me to a human beverage called whiskey, a smoky, amber liquid that burns with a pleasant, complex heat. We discuss military tactics, the philosophical underpinnings of honor, and the profound, isolating loneliness of being universally recognized as the most dangerous creature in any room full of gentle, civilized beings. It is, without exaggeration, the most honest and stimulating conversation I have had in decades. The next morning, I awaken with a pounding headache that feels like a mining laser is drilling into my skull, and a formal agreement, already signed by her superiors, for a joint Cthar-human military and cultural exchange program waiting on my data slate. My father, upon receiving my preliminary report, is visibly pleased, a rare and disconcerting occurrence. And I, the perpetually underachieving scion, have been officially appointed as the permanent diplomatic liaison to the humans. It seems that in this vast, sterile, and predictable galaxy, I have finally stumbled upon the one other species that truly understands what it means to be alive, to have fought for every breath, and to carry the weight of that struggle in your very bones. Several cycles later, a personal message from Elena pings on my private comment reads, "The bigwigs are absolutely thrilled with the agreement. They're making it official. I'm now the designated human contact for all things Cthar. Just my luck, stuck with a lizard who drinks rocket fuel." I read the message once, then again, and my rumbling, grinding laugh fills the empty confines of my chambers once more. This new alliance, I suspect, will be anything but boring.